priding themselves on a deeper understanding of divinity. Based on personal experiences, they do not know casting themselves away into the netherworld of darkness. Boasting freedom, they are simply ensnared by their desires. Such image be opposed, even should they say something true. For one who loves the truth should not even still agree with it. For not all things that are true are the truth, nor should the truth that merely seems to be true, based on personal experience, be compared to the true truth, that according to faith.
The Intelligence Committee was meeting on a daily basis for top secret briefings about the information we were receiving, and the information we had in the Intelligence Committee was not the same information being given to the American people. I couldn't believe it. Members of this administration were in active, heated debate over whether aluminum tubes really meant that the Iraqis were developing nuclear weapons. Some within the administration saying, of course not. It's not the same kind of aluminum tube. At the same time that members of the administration were telling the American people to be fearful of mushroom-shaped clouds. I was angry about it. Frankly, I couldn't do much about it. Because you see, in the Intelligence Committee, we're sworn to secrecy. You can't walk outside the door and say, the statement made yesterday by the White House is in direct contradiction to classified information that's being given to this Congress. We can't do that. We couldn't make those statements. And so in my frustration, I sat here on the floor of the Senate and listened to this heated debate about invading Iraq, thinking the American people are being misled. They are not being told the truth.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks. It's the same reason that will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. Politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept both increasingly shitty jobs, the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long. They tell you what to believe all day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think. Lie. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to. Good, honest, hardworking people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hardworking people continue, modest people, continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all.
Another notice Americans will remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
Dude, I tell you what. Shit! Oh, my ears! We need to get the fuck out of here!
Nope, no weapons over there. Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Nope, no weapons over there. Maybe under here. Oops, this photo wasn't supposed to be in here. This is a Skull and Bone secret signal. This is a Skull and Bone secret signal. This is a Skull and Bone secret signal. This is a Skull and Bone secret signal.
Only I can control it. They would indoctrinate you. Don't believe their lies. It's all bullshit. Everything you believe is a lie. Howdy is controlled by your brain. Open your mind. Don't let them control you. They will indoctrinate you. Don't believe their lies. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's controlled by your brain. Don't let them control you. It's all bullshit.
All right, so we got a good show for you tonight. How's that for an introduction? Tonight's episode is basically going to be based upon what is known as a little pamphlet that is known as Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And I think it's probably one of the more important pieces of one of the more important documents in the world. It's very, it kind of gives you a really good overview of what's really going on. basically during the period while I'm doing this show, I'm going to take you all down a rabbit hole, and please don't come down this rabbit hole unless you got an open mind, because it gets a little out there. But not only am I going to introduce you to what the problem is these days, but I'm going to introduce you to what I've learned as something of a solution. So this should be an interesting ride. This is, of course, not expressing in any way the station's thoughts, feelings, and opinions on anything, because as a station, our thoughts, feelings, and opinions are we want everybody to get along. Now, so what we're talking about here is a pamphlet that, just a second here, let me pull it up. Bam. All right, so we got bam. Yeah, there's the first page, and that's the one you want to see. There we go. All right, let's move that over here. Put this up here, and let's show you what I'm talking about here. Now, I have spoken of this little pamphlet before, but this time, basically, I'm gonna sit and read it to you. Normally, in future episodes, I'm not going to sit there and read everything to you, but in this case, the information is important enough that I feel strongly that it's important that I read it to you guys. So, now, there we go. Bam! All right, so let's see, let's show you this. There we go. Bam. All right. So this basically, it starts out. This was found in it was originally part of a conglomeration of people that are known as the Bilderbergs. Their first meeting was, I believe, in 1954, if I'm not mistaken. And this was basically from 1979, and it was found as a partial document in a printer that was bought on a Boeing surplus auction. So, as you can imagine, it's a little on the at the time it was a little controversial. I think you will find that as we go through this, that it's pretty much a pretty good explanation for what is going on right now. And one thing I want to make certain, because George Carlin there himself was talking about this exact same thing, which is what I call the quiet war due to finding this document. Now, he was pretty accurate, except for the fact that he was thinking it's only the U.S. government that's behind this. It's not. It's all governments, the world over, all people. I will show you a list a little later of, basically a list of names of people that are involved in this. But y'all know this. This is not new. The point is that it matters. And that's why I'm sitting here reading it to you now. And I mean, if you don't think it matters, look at it this way. The first time I tried to record that last song that played, something happened. There was this ungodly racket of ghost music that I couldn't mix down. It didn't have any audio files. It wasn't on any bus. You couldn't control it with the master. You couldn't mix it down, and you couldn't screen record it. Ruined the whole recording. All those files vanished because all my hard drives had failed. And while I was getting ready for this, it's like I had everything carefully curated, and it's like it all went boom. I mean, 1 minute I was working on it and everything was right, and the next minute everything was messed up, and I had to actually go in and hack the program in order to dig up a previous iteration of it, right? So, I mean, believe what you will. It's like I've found that over the years, I've seen things and been around things that give me no choice but to have an open mind. I firmly believe that a closed mind will be the death of us all. So let's get to this. So, and again, this is, you can see the top secret, silent weapons for quiet wars, blah, blah, blah. We got the welcome anniversary. Now, here's an important thing, and this is why I'm going to read basically a pretty good chunk of this to you. It's only 40-something pages long, and I'm skipping like all the math that is in this, although I will eventually place the link for anybody that wants to actually look at the mathematics and see how they work, because they're pretty revealing as well. All right, so it says, welcome aboard. This publication marks the 25th anniversary of the Third World War. And this is in 1979, called the Quiet War, being conducted using subjective biological warfare. I call it psychological and neurological warfare myself. Fought with silent weapons. This book contains an introductory description of this war, its strategies, and its weaponry. Remember, 1979, folks. Security. It is patently impossible to discuss social engineering or the automation of a society, i.e., the engineering of social automation systems. That's what they refer to as silent weapons. We'll get into that in a minute. On a national or worldwide scale without implying extensive objectives of social control and destruction of human life, i.e., slavery and genocide. Let me repeat that, i.e., slavery and genocide. All right, so this manual is in itself an analog declaration of intent. Such a writing must be secured through public scrutiny. Otherwise, it might be recognized as a technically formal declaration of domestic war. Furthermore, whenever any person or group of persons in a position of great power and without full knowledge and consent of the public uses such knowledge and methodologies for economic conquest, it must be understood that a state of domestic warfare exists between said person or group of persons and the public. The solution of today's problems requires an approach which is ruthlessly candid, with no agonizing over religious, moral, or cultural values. Okay, this is the world leaders, and I will again show you the list, and you'll be surprised. With no agonizing over religious, moral, or cultural values. So no agonizing over any of the values that anybody holds important. You have qualified for this project because of your ability to look at human society with cold objectivity, yet analyze and discuss your observations and conclusions with others of similar intellectual capacity without the loss of discretion or humility. Such virtues are exercised in your own best interest. Do not deviate from them. So there's basically the warning of, talk and die. All right, so let's see. Let's go over to this right here. And we will move this over here so you can get a good look at it, because I basically wrote down some of them. I put some of the more important parts off to the side so it's easier to keep track. So where were we? Oh, yeah. So that was the introduction to the person. Like, hi, welcome to our club. She says, why does that not surprise me? All right, hold on a second. Naturally, my program closed, and it's most likely we're going to run into issues. Basically, I seem to be plagued with issues when it comes to technology these days, especially when it comes to this. See, look, that's got nothing left on it. There we go. All right, so. All right. Yeah, you can see that. Let's expand this a little bit. All right, let's get into the descriptive introduction of the silent weapon. Everything that is expected from an ordinary weapon is expected from a silent weapon by its creators, but only in its own manner of functioning. It shoots situations instead of bullets, propelled by data processing instead of chemical reaction, i.e. explosion, originating from bits of data instead of grains of gunpowder, from a computer instead of a gun. Oh, by the way, this list of names is short by a few names. It needs to be updated, and those names are all the primary owners of the large language models of the world. Yeah. Anyway, operated by a computer programmer instead of a marksman, these days AI instead of a marksman, right? Which gives them the ability to sift through all that massive amounts of data that they will speak of how they collect here in a few minutes. What that boils down to is what they're saying is they need to gather information in order to use that information as a weapon against us. All right, so we go on. Blah, blah, makes no noise, blah, 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 blah. We don't need any of that. All right, let's see. The public cannot comprehend this weapon and therefore cannot believe that they are being attacked and subdued by a weapon. The public might instinctively feel that something is wrong, but that is because of the technical nature of the silent weapon. They cannot express their feeling in a rational way or handle the problem with intelligence. Therefore, they do not know how to cry for help and do not know how to associate with others to defend themselves against it. When applied gradually, the public adjusts, adapts to its presence, and learns to tolerate its encroachment upon their lives until the pressure, psychological via economic, becomes too great and they crack up. Therefore, it is a biological warfare. It attacks the vitality, options, and mobilities of the individuals of a society by knowing, understanding, manipulating, and attacking their sources of natural and social energy and their physical, mental, and emotional strengths and weaknesses. In the study of energy systems, there always appears to be three elementary concepts: potential energy, kinetic energy, and the dissipation of energy, which is called waste of energy. All right, so this gets kind of in technical, basically, and we want to avoid that because some people don't really understand the words, and we have to get into defining them and stuff. So, for a moment, we're going to go to a little bit of music and give y'all something to think about. Again, I will be placing a link because this book is under Creative Commons, so I mean anybody can get it that knows the link. So. I will be posting on the YouTube and King and Queen Radio the links so that anybody curious can find it. As it is, I highly recommend reading it. It's probably one of the more important books a person can read. Now let's see. All right. Now let's play some music. This one is dedicated to a lot of friends I've lost thanks to the fentanyl war. Hold on a second. See, this, as I said, plagued with problems, but I already figured out a way around that. So just 1 second. Let me take that and then take this and drop this. Oops. Bink. Drop this right here. Bink. Expand this and go. All right, we're back here, and you know an interesting thing about that. I've been studying the field of cymatics, and I'm not sure if you're quite familiar with what cymatics is, but it's basically the science of sound and geometric shape. There's a point in time in the near future where we will actually get into the whole cymatics thing because I mean it is actually kind of critical to what I'm trying to get across here, but. Um, Basically you'll notice if you watch that video, I didn't have the music in any way connected to the visuals on that particular one. Usually I do. That one I was using I just basically it kind of just fell together like that. But you'll notice that there's a lot of it basically, despite that fact that the visuals went in, locked themselves in time with the music, and then started to display quite a bit of things that are included in the history of symbology. So if you get a chance, go back and watch that, because there's a lot of different symbology that works its way in there. And I find that true with like all the videos that I'm going to show you tonight. If you keep your eyes peeled, you'll see a lot of symbology that's basically reacting to the music itself. And that's what cymatics is. Like I say, we'll go into more on that later. We got a lot of ground to cover here this evening, and we should get to it. So let me continue on, but first let me take a moment and recap. Basically, basically this is a large conglomeration of what we would call the powers that be, saying that the basically they've been at war since the 50s in World War III, and that war is deliberately being waged not against any other country, but against us, the people of the world. Not just America, not Russia, not the Ukraine, not Israel, all of us. They're all part of it, and I will prove that. All right, so Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. They're all part of it. Bill Clinton's been there, as well as plenty of Republican presidents. They're all part of the club, and you're not it. You get it? And it's like, and I mean, it matters, because it's like they're working towards something, and I'll show you that eventually on another episode. But for right now, let's see, where were we? Oh, components. No, we don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. All right. So basically, what it is a long time ago, I realized that the money is basically, esoterically speaking, you would call it stored energy, because everything in this universe is about energy, and you got to go out and hustle your ass off to get that money, and then you give it to somebody else that hustled their ass off to get that money, and so it's basically a way of passing energy back and forth. Now, I've been through economics, and I was dumb enough to take economics before I took calculus. Please don't do that. You need calculus in order to really understand economics. I was fortunate, and then sometimes I'm almost as brilliant as I think I am, but it was, excuse me, it was exceedingly difficult to pass that class. And then calculus, of course, I started out in calculus wanting to get an A, and by the time I got down to it, I was just glad I didn't have to do it again. C was great for me. Woo! Yeah, calculus is, it's definitely all right. And so the guy that came up with the original plan for this, that came up with the whole, money as energy type of thing. And that's when I found this in my collection of, because I collect information, and before all my hard drives failed, I used to have quite a vast library that I walked around with me all the time. I'm certain much larger than the New York City Library, and most of it repressed or hard to find information. So, and most of that was lost because I was dumb enough to check my bags when I went through the airport, and Homeland Security just, I don't know what they did to it, but there went 10 terabytes of information. Boo, gone. So if you got something like that, don't check your bag. All right, so where were we? All right, so the guy that came up with that concept, it went by the name of Amory Rothschild. Now, Amory is, if you don't know who he is, that's basically the guy that made the Rothschild fortune. And it says, when Mr. Rothschild had discovered was the basic principle of power, influence, and control over people as applied to economics, when you basically use electrical theory and apply it towards economics and social engineering, right? So basically, he's combining three principles here: the principles of energy and motion, and applying that to economic principles, and using basically propaganda and psychology in order to more or less control the world. More on that later. All right, so when you basically, the control over people can be simplified to, let me do this. let's screen share so y'all can see this, huh? All right, so entire screen. Let's go here, share. All right, now let's let you take a look at this. All right, so let's see, where were we? And this kind of talks about how the where was I? All right, here we are. All right, so basically, what Mr. Rothschild had discovered was the basic principle of power and influence and control over people. That principle is when you assume the appearance of power, people give it to you. This has been proven. He had discovered that currency or deposit loan accounts had the required appearance of power that could be used to induce people, inductance, with people corresponding to a magnetic field. So basically, that's going into electric theory, which we're going to avoid that because it gives you a headache almost as much as quantum mechanics. But basically, the appearance of power that can be used to induce people into surrendering their real wealth in exchange for a promise of greater wealth instead of real compensation. That's how the credit system was invented. They would put up real collateral in exchange for a loan of promissory notes. Mr. Rothschild found that he could issue more notes than he had backing for, so long as he had someone's stock of gold as a persuader to show his customers. All right, if you look up the Rothschild family fortune, that's basically how they made it. You know, he was more or less the first real international banker. All right, so Mr. Rothschild loaned his promissory notes to individuals and to governments, which of course, gives him a little bit of leverage, doesn't it? These would create overconfidence. Then he would make money scarce, tighten control of the system, and collect the collateral through the obligation of contracts. The cycle was then repeated. This pressure could be used to ignite a war. Then he would control the availability of currency, determine who would win the war. That government which agreed to give him control of its economic system got his support. Collection of debts was guaranteed by economic aid to the enemy of the debtor. The profit derived from this economic methodology made Mr. Rothschild all the more able to expand his wealth. He found that the public greed would allow currency to be printed by government order beyond the limits, inflation, of backing in precious metal or the production of goods and services. Apparent capital is paper inductor, basically, so that basically you take and print up more paper, right? That the more paper you print up, the less that paper is worth. And so with debt, basically creating your negative side of a circuit, basically that debt makes the money all move to whoever holds the debt, right? That's basically the philosophy behind it. So the total goods and services represent real capital called the gross national product, and currency may be printed up to this level and still represent positive economic growth. But currency printed beyond this level is subtractive, which represents inflation and indebtedness. War is therefore the balancing of the system by killing the true creditors, the public, which we have taught to exchange true value for inflated currency, and falling back on whatever is left of the resources of nature and regeneration of those resources. Mr. Rothschild had discovered that currency gave him the power to rearrange the economic structure to his own advantage, to shift economic inductance to those economic positions which would encourage the greatest economic instability and oscillation. Middle East, anyone? The final key to economic control had to wait until there was sufficient data and high-speed computing equipment to keep close watch on the economic oscillations created by price shocking and excess paper energy credits, paper inductance, inflation. The aviation field provided the greatest evolution in economic engineering by way of mathematical theory of shock testing. So basically, what they're saying there, and what it keeps on talking about all the rest of the way down, is by creating economic disruption, they can use the mathematics of economics in order to basically see how the public reacts to this and get a feeling for basically the herd mentality, the psychology of the social of the culture that they're trying to manipulate. All right. Basically, eventually, every individual element of this structure comes under computer control through a knowledge of personal preferences. Such knowledge guaranteed by Computer Association of Consumer Preferences, Universal Product Code, UPC, Zebra Stripe pricing codes on packages with identified consumers identified via association with the use of a credit card, and later a permanent tattooed body number invisible under normal ambient illumination. Now let's take a second here and let me show you the basically the data, the plan, because this is like, it gets pretty heavy here. All right, so we'll go down here. All right, so this one, we crack this open, expand that up. All right, so basically what they need in order to do this social engineering that they didn't have before, I mean, I can trace this all quite a ways back, and we'll get into that later, but Amory was alive from like something like the middle of the 1700s to like 1812. And it was like in the 1700s that he actually started on this, and it's been passed down, and it's still going today. You'll see as I get through it, I mean, so basically what they needed is they needed enough input and output. They needed enough information in order to socially engineer and work towards basically getting the public into the mindset that they want. We'll go into that on further episodes. The process of defining and evaluating the factors and incorporating the economic amplifier, which is basically, they take the information and that tells them where to apply pressure to the economic structure of the world, because we have a world economy right now, whether we like it or not. And that does include BRICS, because their economy still relies on ours. Even Russia, I mean, they're kind of hurting because of the cutoff, but we're hurting too. I mean, make no mistake about it. They're not shipping from China to here right now, and I mean, it's a world economy. So the designer, blah 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 blah. All right, so here's basically the inputs of what this is the information they need in order to enact this plan. They need to know basically everything about us. And here's some of the sources of information that they planned on using at the time: telephone taps, analysis of garbage, surveillance, behavior of children in school, food, shelter, clothing, transportation. Let's see. We'll go to the next one. All right, so it basically, as far as they need to keep track of social contacts through the telephone, itemized record of calls. Now, a wise man once told me that if something's free, you're not the customer, you're the product, right? So think about the free phones and the free internet while I'm going through this list of how they planned on in 1954 up to 1979 of gathering information. Telephone, itemized record of calls, family, marriage certificates, birth certificates, friends, associates, memberships in organizations, and political affiliations. They want to keep track of your personal buying habits, your checking accounts, credit card purchases, tag credit card purchases using your universal product code, checking accounts, saving accounts, real estate, business, automobile, safety deposit, stock market. So basically all your finances, right? And then we go down here, and the list keeps on going, because we got creditors, enemies, loans, the government sources, welfare, Social Security, USDCA, surplus food, grants, subsidies. And basically, as far as that goes, as far as the government sources, which has the little note ploys, this sitting there, that is, here, let me expand this so you can see that. Basically, that little note right there says, principle of this ploy, the citizen will almost always make the collection of information easy if he can operate on the free sandwich principle of eat now and pay later. And then we got, of course, the Internal Revenue Service, OSHA, census, etc., and surveillance of the U.S. mail. But it goes on. All All right, so now here we got the habit patterns. This is basically how they what the information they need in order to program you. Strengths and weaknesses, activities, legal, hospital records, psychiatric records. They want to keep track of fears, angers, disgust, adaptability, reactions to stimuli, violence, suggestions, suggestibility or hypnosis, pain, pleasure, love, and sex. They want to know how you cope, consumption of alcohol, drugs, entertainment, religious factors influencing behavior, other methods of escaping to reality. And let's see, then how you pay stuff, payment of telephone bills, energy, water, repayment of loans, house payments, automobile payments, payments on credit cards, political sensitivity, beliefs, contacts, positions, strengths, weaknesses, projects, and activities. And it goes on. Political sensitivity, legal inputs, court records, police records, driving records, reports made to police, insurance information, anti-establishment acquaintances, business sources, prices of commodities, sales, investments. Okay, so they want to know what you do, who you do it with, how you feel about it, how you feel about them, how you spend your money, who you owe your money to. Let's see, they take all polls, surveys, publications, telephone records, energy and utility purchases. And the list keeps on going. Don't you just love it? All right, so let's see, outputs, create controlled situations, manipulation of the economy, hence society, control by control of compensation and income. All right, so what they're saying here is basically by controlling how much money you get, that allows them to control basically everything. The sequence is allocates opportunities, destroys opportunities, controls the economic environment, controls the availability of raw materials, controls capital, controls bank rates, controls the inflation of currency, controls the possession of property, controls industrial capacity. We'll get more into that one there on another episode. Controls manufacturing, the availability of goods, the prices of goods, controls services and labor force, payments to government officials, legal functions, personal data files, advertising, media content, material available for TV viewing, disengages attention from real issues, engages emotions, creates disorder, chaos, and insanity, controls design of more probing tax forms. Remember, they just gave a whole heap of millions of dollars to the IRS, surveillance, which, I mean, if you don't know how many cameras there are out there, then you should. Everything you do in the city is filmed. Controls the storage of information, develops psychological analysis. What the heck is that right there? Let's see. Let's get that out of the way. Figures. All right, let's just expand that. I'm sorry about that. Let's see. Controls legal functions, sociological factors, health options, preys on weakness, cripples strengths, leeches wealth and substance. So, I mean, that's basically, it's an outline of the plan, or it's one of the goals. It's not really their end goal though, because I mean, one of the things that people seem to often make the mistake of thinking is that it's all about money and power. But if you got all the money in the world and all the world's resources at your disposal, what the hell do you need money and power for? All right, so here's the strategies as of 1979 that they were enacting. Keep the public ignorant to get less public organization. Maintain access to control point for feedback, so that they can basically judge whether or not they're going too far. Create preoccupation to lower people's defense. Attack the family unit and control the education of the young. Give less cash and more credit for more self-indulgence and more data. Attack the privacy of the church to destroy faith in this sort of government. Use propaganda to create social conformity, computer programming simplicity. Minimize the tax protest in order to maximize data. Stabilize the consent, which means basically if you, by remaining silent, you are giving consent. tighten control of variables, which is data based, blah 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 data. The rest of this is basically data until you get maximize control, minimize resistance to control, collapse of currency, destroy the faith of the American people in each other. Collapse of currency. All right, so we're gonna play a little music, and I'll come back, and yeah, so it's pretty hairy, I mean, there's more to it too. That's the sad thing about it. I don't know. It's all right. Hold on just a second. Let me delete that. Think. And then take I don't know, let's see. I need to take a break. So I'm gonna play one that I did for hold on a second. Yeah, see, this is the non-handy part about having everything like explode at the end of it, right? I don't know. Hold on one second. There. All right. So I'm gonna play a song for you that is the way back in the day, called "Letter N" initially, which is written for my first wife, and then right after that, because I basically want to take a break myself, I'm gonna play for you another one that I wrote about the same time frame, and it's called Ism, and both of these are on guitar because I started out playing guitar, and they're basically they're relatively old. I'm gonna redo them here pretty soon and re-release them, but hopefully y'all enjoy them. And now pay attention to the visuals because they're definitely a part of it.
promised me, you promised me. I didn't sign the privilege. You didn't say you break my heart. I didn't sign up for this. You didn't tell me every day. You didn't stay. You promised me. You promised me. I didn't sign the privilege. Promise me. I didn't sign the privilege. I didn't sign the break my heart. I didn't sign up to break my heart. I didn't sign up for this. You didn't tell me and you won't stay. You didn't. I didn't sign up for this. You didn't tell me and you won't stay. You didn't. You promised me. You promised me. I didn't sign a privilege. You didn't say you'd break my heart. I didn't sign up for this. You didn't tell me that you didn't stay. You promised me. You promised me. I didn't sign a privilege. Promise me. I didn't sign a privilege. I didn't sign the break my heart. I didn't sign up to break my heart. I didn't sign up for this. You didn't tell me and you won't stay. When you leave me alone, alone. Now do you know how much it hurt when you leave me alone, alone. Now do you know how much it hurt when you leave me alone. Now do you know how much it hurt when you leave me alone? Now do you know how much it hurt when you leave me alone? How much it hurt when you alone? Now do you know Now do you know? Now do you know how much it hurts when you leave? When you leave me alone. Now do you know when you leave? When you leave me alone.
So we're back here. Let me shrink this down. Bam. All right. So, speak. Oops. Hold on just one second. We'll get back to this. We're actually almost done with this particular reading. There's a couple quotes in here that I think it's kind of critical that one see here, and then we'll do a little bit more music and let you all go for the night. Next week I'll expand upon this a little bit. There's a lot I got to get across here, and it's very important. So please, for your own sake, keep an open mind. I say, and again, I'm not expressing the views of the station in any way, shape, or form. These are my personal understandings based on a lifetime of being an avid researcher. So, I used to hang out at the library, right? Kind of a geeky thing to do, but man, what some pretty girls there. I'll tell you what, this one girl I met from, she was German, and she was a pretty young thing, intelligent too. Anyway, that was back in the day. These days, you don't need libraries, but man, when I was younger, I used to love it. That's where I hung out because in order to learn, you had to go to the library. All right, so, all right. We pick it up at since energy is the key to all activity on the face of the earth, which it is, and as a matter of fact, that's all activity in the entire universe. As well as the multiverse, as we'll call it for the moment. It's really consciousness, though. Anyway, we'll get into that a little later on another episode. We don't want to go on that tangent right now because consciousness is a mind trip. Anyway, it follows that in order to attain a monopoly of energy, raw materials, goods, and services, and to establish a world system of slave labor, it is necessary to have a first strike capability in the field of economics. In order to maintain our position, it is necessary that we have absolute first knowledge of the science of control over all economic factors and the first experience at engineering the world economy. Let me repeat, world economy, not just US, not European, world economy, all right? So in order to achieve such sovereignty, we must at least achieve this one end, that the public will not make either the logical or mathematical connection between economics and other energy sciences, which is why I'm sitting here reading this to you, kind folk, or learn to apply such knowledge. This is becoming increasingly difficult to control because more and more businesses are making demands upon their computer programmers to create and apply mathematical models for the management of the businesses. It is only a matter of time before the new breed of private programmer economists will catch on to the far-reaching implications of the work began at Harvard in 1948. The speed with which they can communicate their warning to the public will largely depend upon how effectively we have been at controlling the media, subverting education, and keeping the public distracted with matters of no real importance. Can you say election 2024, please? Yeah, cancel the election, folks. Let's see. So we go into the economic model. Economics is a social energy science, has as a first objective the description of the complex way in which any given unit of resources is used to satisfy want. The first objective, when it is extended to get the most product from the least or limited sources, comprises that the objective of general military and industrial logistics, known as operations research. Now, see, at the end of World War II, they came up with the operations research. Its purpose was to discover the science of controlling an economy. At first, the American economy and then the world economy. It was felt that with sufficient mathematical foundation and data, it would be nearly as easy to predict and control the trend of an economy as to predict and control the trajectory of a projectile. Such has proven to be the case. Moreover, the economy has been transformed into a guided missile on target. The immediate aim of the Harvard Project was to discover the economic structure, what forces change that structure, how the behavior of the structure can be predicted, and how it can be manipulated. What was needed was a well organized knowledge of the mathematical structures and interrelations of investment, production, distribution, and consumption. Anybody that's taken economics, they have all that pretty much down to a science. I mean, and literally they got math that'll tell you, give or take a few, how many hamburgers you will buy with your paycheck. And I am not kidding. To make a short story of it all, it was discovered that an economy. Let's see. Am I sharing this with you guys? Let's see. Let's make sure I'm sharing this with you guys. Yeah. Okay. So you guys can see this. All right. All right. To make the short story, it was discovered that an economy obeyed the same laws as electricity, and that all of the mathematical theory and practical computer know-how developed for the electronic field could be directly applied in the study of economics. Basically, economics is energy flow. And it's very apt. The math in here, which we're not gonna go through that at all, but the math in here for those that would like to is very spot on. This discovery was not openly declared, and its more subtle implications were and are kept a closely guarded secret. For example, in an economic model, human life is measured in dollars. That the electric spark generated when opening a switch connected to an active inductor is mathematically analogous to the initiation of a war. Let me repeat that. The electric spark generated when opening a switch connected to power is mathematically the same as the initiation of war. So these guys are saying that war to them is like flicking a switch. The greatest hurdle which theoretical economists face was the accurate description of the household as an industry. This is a challenge because consumer purchases are a matter of choice, which in turn is influenced by income, price, and economic factors. This hurdle was cleared in an indirect and statistically approximate way by an application of shock testing to determine the current characteristics called coefficients of the household industry. All right. Firstly, because problems in theoretical electronics can be translated very easily into problems of theoretical economics and the solution translated back again, it follows that only a book of language translation and concept definition need to be written for economics. The remainder could be gotten from standard works on mathematics and electronics. This makes the publication of books on advanced economics unnecessary and greatly simplifies security. So basically, it's a plan to censor the amount of information the average person can learn regarding economics and how to how to get up there where they are. Let's see. Let's see. Let's get to some more. Computer information derived from the use of the UPC code in conjunction with credit card purchases as an individual household identifier could change the state of affairs by providing the necessary information that we need in order to shock test the economy. Basically, we don't have there's no data deficiency these days. I mean, it's no longer a matter of if any of us are on a list. It's a matter of what list you're on and how high up on that list you are. They gather all of your cell phone communications. Yes, they do. And they don't need a warrant to do that because once you put it in the air, it is public property, which is why they're giving away all these phones. So anyway, all right. So more. Am I going? Yeah, I'm going the right way. All right. So Economic let's see. Economic engineers achieve shock testing in studying the behavior of the economy and the consumer public by carefully selecting a staple commodity such as beef, coffee, gasoline, or sugar, and then causing a sudden change or shock in its price or availability, thus kicking everybody's budget and buying habits out of shape. They then observe the shock waves, which result by monitoring the changes in advertising prices and the sales of that and other commodities. The objectives of such studies is to acquire the knowledge how to set the public economy into a predictable state of motion or change, even a controlled self-destructive state of motion, which will convince the public that certain expert people should take control of the money system and reestablish security rather than focused on things like liberty and justice for all. When the subject citizens are rendered unable to control their financial affairs, they of course become totally enslaved, a source of cheap labor. Not only the prices of commodities, but also the availability of labor can be used as the means of shock testing. Labor strikes deliver excellent tests shocks to an economy, especially in the critical service areas of trucking, communication, public utilities, energy, water, garbage, etc. By shock testing, it is found that there is a direct relationship between the availability of money flowing in an economy and the real psychological outlook and responses of masses of people dependent upon that availability. For example, there is a measurable quantitative relationship between the price of gasoline and the probability that the person would experience a headache, feel the need to watch a violent movie, smoke a cigarette, or go to a tavern for a mug of beer. It's most interesting that by observing and measuring the economic models by which the public tries to run through their problems and escape from reality, and by applying the mathematical theory of operations research, it is possible to program computers to predict the most probable combination of created events which will bring about a complete control and subjugation of the public through a subversion of the public economy. Let me say that again. It is possible to program computers, say AI, to predict the most probable combination of created events which will bring about a complete control and subjugation of the world public, not just the American, the world, all right? We're all in this together, folks. Subjugation of the public through a subversion of the public economy. Ronald Reagan, the Evil Empire speech, Bush making jokes about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Now, if you actually sit and talk to veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts, what you find is that our soldiers were basically told that you cannot shoot until you're shot at. All right, so basically every single combat that our children went into over there, they gave up the initiative versus the enemy. All right, so basically you're going to war and they're told you cannot shoot until you get shot. But Dick Cheney's mercenaries, on the other hand, were not restricted in any way. I was told quite simply that, and I mean, they make $1 to $2 million a year on their initial contract, the best of the best, right? Mercenaries. But I was told by a veteran that, when they rolled through town, it was dead quiet. Nobody messed with them. When our boys rolled through town, they got shot all to hell. Why? Because you could shoot them. They had to know who they were shooting at before they could defend themselves. Now, the whole war is, we'll go into that later. I don't want to go into that right now, but I'm going to discuss some of the more recent conflicts and what the real motive behind them is, because, basically they sent our kids over there to be murdered. Period. That's what happened. All right, so let's get through some of this technical stuff, because I don't really want to bore people with like amplifier talk and blah 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 blah. Am I going the right way? Yeah. All right, so here we go. All All right, so let's go into the primary strategy, which their primary strategy is basically based on diversion. Experience has proven that the simplest method of securing a silent weapon and gaining control of the public is to keep the public undisciplined and ignorant of the basic system principles on the one hand, while keeping them confused, disorganized, and distracted with matters of no real importance on the other hand. This is achieved by disengaging their minds, sabotaging their mental activities, providing a low-quality program of public education in mathematics, logic, systems design, and economics, and discouraging technical creativity. Engaging their emotions, increasing their self-indulgence and their indulgence in emotional and psychological activities by unrelenting emotional affrontations and attacks, mental and emotional rape, by way of a constant barrage of sex, violence, and wars in the media, especially the TV and newspapers, giving them what they desire in excess, junk food for thought, and depriving them of anything they really need or anything of substance. Rewriting history and law and subjecting the public to the deviant creation, which I had to look that up. What that means is basically rewriting history and the legal system and subjecting the public to that, thus being able to shift their thinking from personal needs to highly fabricated outside priorities. These include their interest in and discovery of the silent weapons of social automation technology. The general rule is that there is profit in confusion. The more confusion, the more profit. Therefore, the best approach is to create problems and then offer solutions. Media, keep the adult public attention diverted away from the real social issues and captivated by matters of no real importance. Schools, keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Entertainment, keep the public entertainment below a 6th grade level. Work, keep the public busy with no time to think, back on the farm with the other animals. Now, consent is basically the primary victory is in their opinion. And then, like I say, if you remain silent, then you give consent. As silent weapons systems operate upon data obtained from a docile public by legal but not always lawful force, much information is made available to the programmers through the Internal Revenue Service. This information consists of enforced delivery of well-organized data contained in federal and state tax forms collected, assembled, and submitted by slave labor provided by taxpayers and employers. Further, the number of such forms submitted to the IRS is a useful indicator of public consent, an important factor in strategic decision-making. Other data sources are given in the short list of inputs, which we went through that. Consent coefficients. Numerical feedback indicating victory status, psychological basis. When the government is able to collect tax and seize private property without just compensation, it is an indication that the public is ripe for surrender and is consenting to enslavement and legal encroachment. A good and easily qualified indicator of harvest time is the number of public citizens who pay income tax despite an obvious lack of reciprocal or honest service from the government. All right, so the next step in the process of designing an economic amplifier, which is basically to feed energy and amplify it and direct it, is discovering the energy sources. The energy sources with which support any primitive economic system are, of course, a supply of raw materials, the consent of people to labor, and consequently assume a certain rank, position, level, or class in the social structure. Basically, i.e., to provide labor at various levels in the pecking order. Each class, in guaranteeing its own level of income, controls the class immediately below it, hence preserves this class structure. This provides stability and security, but also government from the top. As time goes on, communication and education improve. The lower class elements of the social labor structure become knowledgeable and envious of the good things that the upper class members have. They also begin to attain a knowledge of energy systems and the ability to enforce their rise through the class structure. This threatens the sovereignty of the elite. If this rise of the lower classes can be postponed long enough, the elite can achieve energy dominance, and labor by consent no longer will hold a position of an essential energy source. All right, now, this is kind of something I want everybody to think about, because we're headed towards basically World War III, and according to them, World War III is in 1979. World War III was already going for 25 years. And so the social media war is a world psychological war, and people have been throwing their kids on the front line of it, and some of them since they were like babies. It's crazy. So let's look at this again, and let me explain something. All right. Labor by consent no longer will hold a position of an essential energy source. All right. So now they got AI, and they're pushing pretty quick to get AI controlled robots. So, I mean, it's getting to the point where they don't need slave labor anymore. They got slave labor that won't revolt against them, and they don't have to really worry about all this subtle stuff. So think about that as we head into this next war. Until such energy dominance is absolutely established, the consent of people to labor and let others handle their affairs must be taken into consideration, since failure to do so could cause the people to interfere in the final transfer of energy sources to the control of the elite. We'll stop here, and I'll tell you that we're going to cover precisely why they need that. You notice they're not talking about money. They're not talking about power. They're talking about energy sources. This is critical, all right? Everybody thinks it's about money or power, but I've spent millions in my life, and I'm telling you right now, anybody who has more money than they can possibly spend and everything they want doesn't give a rat's ass about more money. Money is just a means to an end. If you got plenty of money and you don't need any more, then you're good with it. But if you need more money, then it's because you have some type of end that you're trying to reach. And that's what this is about. It is essential to recognize that at this time, the public consent is still an essential key to the release of energy in the process of economic amplification, i.e. control. Therefore, blah, 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 blah. All right, so here they're saying basically, again, they're basically they're talking about analyzing the analysis of data, because data is critical. And of course now, before, like all the data on the internet, they really didn't have much of a capacity without, they really couldn't keep track of all of it. Now they can, and it's like now they can. Anything you put out there on the internet, they have. Anything you do on your phone, they have. Anywhere you go, they have film of it. All right. And this is a fact. Read the news. Look how they're catching people. Their phones. They watched a guy that killed these girls down in Idaho all the way to Pennsylvania. They had him on camera the whole way in his vehicle. Now, I'm glad they caught him, because he was a bastard, and the crime he did, it was heinous. But while I'm reading that, I'm also noticing that they were able to film him driving completely across the country. All right. So keep that in mind. The objective of these artificial wombs is to provide a stable environment for both stable and unstable activity, to provide a shelter for the evolutionary process of growth and maturity. The primary reason why the individual citizens of a country create a political structure is a subconscious wish or desire to perpetuate their own dependency relationship of childhood. All right, so now these guys are going all Freud on us. Simply put, they want a human god to eliminate all risks from their life, pat them on the head, kiss their bruises, put a chicken on every dinner table, clothe their bodies, tuck them in bed at night, tell them everything will be all right when they wake up in the morning. This public demand is incredible, so the human god, the politician, meets incredibility with incredibility by promising the world and delivering nothing. So who is the bigger liar, the public or the politician? This public behavior is surrender born of fear, laziness, and expediency. It is the basis of the welfare state as a strategic weapon useful against a disgusting public. Most people want to be able to subdue or kill other human beings which disturb their daily lives, but they do not want to have to cope with the moral and religious issues which such an overaction on their part might raise. Therefore, they assign the dirty work to others, including their own children, so as to keep the blood off their hands. They rave about the humane treatment of animals and then sit down to a delicious hamburger from a whitewashed slaughterhouse down the street and out of sight. But even more hypocritical, they pay taxes to finance a professional association of hitmen, collectively called politicians, and then complain about corruption in government. Basically, responsibility. Again, most people want to be free to do the things they want to do, but they're afraid to fail. The fear of failure is manifested in irresponsibility and especially in delegating those personal responsibility to others where success is uncertain and carries possible or created liabilities, i.e. legal ramifications, etc., which the person is not prepared to accept. They want authority, but they will not accept the responsibility or the liability, so they hire politicians to face reality for them. The people hire the politicians so that the people can obtain security without managing it, obtain action without thinking about it, inflict theft, injury, and death upon others without having to contemplate either life or death, and avoid responsibility for their own intentions. Obtain the benefits of reality and science, exerting themselves in the discipline of facing or learning either without exerting themselves in discipline of facing or learning either of these things. They give the politicians the power to create and manage a war machine, provide for the survival of the nation, prevent encroachment upon the nation, destroy the enemy who threatens the nation, destroy those citizens of their own country who do not conform for the sake of the stability of the nation. Politicians hold many quasi-military jobs, the lowest being the police, which are soldiers, the attorneys and CPAs next, who are spies and saboteurs, licensed, the judges who shout orders and run the closed union military shop, the generals are industrious, the presidential level of commander-in-chief is shared by international bankers. As a matter of fact, I have a thing called the Trilateral Commission, which is one of those powers that be organizations. And Henry Kissinger was in it, which Henry Kissinger is like head deep in it. I mean, he's head deep in it, or was. But he went to go meet the Canadian president. And when he walked in, he said, this was during Carter's reign. He said, Jimmy Carter is not the president. The Trilateral Commission is the president of the United States, and I speak for the Trilateral Commission. All right, so the people know that they've created a farce and financed it with their own taxes, but they would rather knuckle under than be a hypocrite. Thus, a nation becomes divided in two very distinct parts: a docile subnation, great silent majority, and a political subnation. The political subnation remains attached to the docile subnation, tolerates it, and leaches its substance until it grows strong enough to detach itself, then devour its parent. In order to make meaningful computerized economic decisions about war, the primary economic flywheel, it is necessary to assign concrete logistical values to each element of the war structure, personal and material alike. This process begins with a clear and candid description of the subsystems of such a structure. Now we're going to take a break there and listen to some music because it's pretty heavy and it's actually pretty depressing. But you know, it's like the world needs to know, because you know it's like this is no joke. All right, I grew up with the people that have security, the security level of that knew about this. I was raised knowing about the Quiet War from birth. You know, that's probably why it didn't really suck me in, because, you know, I mean, the fact of the matter is I've known about it my whole life. But for those of you that, you know, maybe think that it matters what you vote, or, you know, that the government may be on your side, no. And, you know, they're on their side, not yours. And that by that, I mean, there is no war to them. That's something they put on to kill us off. You know, they're not at war. We are. And I mean, think about that. That's scary. All right, hold on a second here. Let me get some music.
I can't even go that high, but I can try to be high with you all my life. I can try, it's true. Oh no, you don't understand. I can't go that slow or that high. You don't understand. I can't go that slow. I can't even go that high, but I can try to be high with you all my life. I can try, it's true. I know you don't understand. I can't go that slow or that high. You don't understand. I can't go that slow. I can't even go that high. I can try to be high with you all my life. I can try, it's true. I stand, I can't, that's all. For that, I can't, that's all.
All right, so I don't know. Let's hear another one. Let's see. Let's do that. Go like that. Bap. And we'll drop another one on here. What do we got? Hmm. Here we go. This one's fabulous. Sorry guys, I had this all prepared, but it's like I got a weird thing with electronics these days. They just don't seem to work consistently around me. Hold on one second. All right. So anyway, where's that? This one right here is basically called "Return to the Indigenous," and it's made up entirely of samples of Aztec instruments. So enjoy. Let's see. Let's do this. Bink. Oops. Better take a second. Yeah, that's like I say. It's a little out there. Left to my own devices, I kind of get pretty kind of an intense ambient, but yeah, that was done all with examples that were of Aztec instruments. So yeah, they had some pretty scary sounding instruments. Death whistle. But we'll get into the Aztecs at a later date. Right now, let's get this. Let me boot this back up here. Where the heck is it? And get through the rest of the important parts of this, and then a couple short tunes, and then I'm out of here, and I'll let everybody go on along their way. It's kind of a heavy thing, and like I say, I'll put the links so that people can like basically take a look at this as they wish on their own. I'm not telling you what to think about it. I know what I think about it, and I know what I know about it. But it's like we each of us, we live in our own reality. So I mean, it's up to the rest of you. It's up to y'all to decide. But I'm telling you, man, it's like uh, these guys are counting on us, basically rolling over and letting them do this. And there's an end purpose to it, and it's pretty scary. We'll get into that a few episodes down the line. I got to show you basically. Well, I got to take you down the rabbit hole. And this is just an introduction. All right, let's see. Let's see. So they talk about the draft basically, and let's see. There's a few important parts in the draft part of it. The few efforts of human behavior modification are more remarkable or more effective than that of the socio-military institution known as the draft. A primary purpose of a draft or other such institutions is to instill by intimidation in the young males of a society the uncritical conviction that the government is omnipotent. He is soon taught that a prayer is slow to reverse what a bullet can do in an instant. Thus, a man trained in a religious environment for 18 years of his life can, by this instrument of the government, be broken down, be purged of his fantasies and delusions in a matter of mere months. Once that conviction is instilled, all else becomes easy to instill. Even more interesting is the process by which a young man's parents, who purportedly love him, can be induced to send him off to war to his death. Although the scope of this work will not allow this matter to be expanded in full detail, a course overview will be necessary, though. All right, so it goes on to say basically everybody, how the draft. Let's see. All right, so here we go. This is once a candidate economic definition of the draft is achieved. So basically, they're breaking everybody down into dollars and cents so they can send them off to war. That definition is used to outline the boundaries of a structure called a human value system, which in turn is translated into the terms of game theory. The value of such a slave labor is given in a table of human values, a table broken down into categories by intellect, experience, post-service job demand, etc., which is called, they have a federal website for that, which is basically your federal labor statistics. Some of these categories are ordinary and can be tentatively evaluated for certain jobs that a known fee exists. So basically, they break you down into the dollar cents of how much you are worth based on how much you make at your job. Some jobs are harder to value because they are unique to the demands of a social subversion. For an example, the value of a mother's instruction to her daughter, causing that daughter to put certain behavioral demands upon a future husband 10 or 15 years hence. Can you say diamonds, which are not rare, nor are they valuable? In a pawn shop, they'll throw them on the floor. Thus, by suppressing his resistance to a perversion of a government, making it easier for a banking cartel to buy the state of New York, say in 20 years, by selling people diamonds, etc. Worthless junk that they've convinced people is worth money, which actually money is just an illusion anyway. But we'll get into that later. Such a problem leans heavily upon the observations and data of wartime espionage and many types of psychological testing. But crude mathematical models can be devised, if not to predict, at least to predetermine these events with maximum certainty. Of course, now they're using AI to predict everything. So keep that in mind. What does not exist by natural cooperation is thus enhanced by calculated compulsion. Human beings are machines, levers which may be grasped and turned. There is little real difference between automating a society and automating a shoe factory. These derived values are variable. It is necessary to use a current table of human values for computer analysis. These values are given in a true measure rather than US dollars, since the later is unstable. Now, okay, now let's go through this paragraph again. All right, so basically the table of human values for computer analysis. These values are given in true measure rather than US dollars, since the later is unstable, being presently inflated beyond the production of national goods and services so as to give the economy a false kinetic energy. The silver value is stable, it being possible to buy the same amount with a gram of silver today as it was in 1920. Human value measured in silver unit changes slightly due to changes in production technology. In every social system approach, stability is achieved only by understanding and accounting for human nature, action-reaction patterns. A failure to do so can be and usually is disastrous. As in other human social schemes, one form or another of intimidation or incentive is essential to the success of the draft. Physical principles of action and reaction must be applied to both external and external subsystems. To secure the draft, individual brainwashing, programming, and both the family unit and the peer group must be engaged and brought under control. And then it goes on and it basically explains the psychology behind the programming. As the transition becomes more difficult to manage, the family unit must be carefully disintegrated, and state-controlled public education and state-operated child care centers must become more common and legally enforced so as to begin the detachment of the child from the mother and father at an earlier age. Inoculation of behavioral drugs, Ritalin, can speed the transition for the child. Mandatory. Caution. A woman's impulsive anger can override her fear. An irate woman's power must never be underestimated, and her power over a pussy-whipped husband must likewise never be underestimated. It got women the vote in 1920. All right, so and then we go at the end, they say, those who will not use their brains are no better off than those who have no brains. And so this mindless school of jellyfish, father, mother, son, and daughter, become useful beasts of burden or trainers of the same. All right, so let's go a little further here. Back up here, there's one part I missed that is critical. All right. All right, so basically, it's called the Quiet War, putting brother against brother and diverting the public's attention from what is really going on. Right? Let's see. What I want to look at is there's one part that I somehow missed, and you got to hear that because it's the most important one of all. And then after that, we'll play a couple songs and call it a day. But there's one quote in here somewhere. Actually, you know what? Instead of looking around, I had it separated here, but again, everything just like vanished all of a sudden. I cannot explain it, nor will I try. It just happened. So it is what it is. Let's see. I have a wrong folder here. So what we'll do is we'll just open it up, the book itself, wherever it is. hell is it? Figures. Search media. Should be it right there. All right, so somewhere in here I screenshotted the quote, but it kind of got lost in the shuffle. And this might be it right here, I hope. Let's see. Nope, not that one. Damn. Yeah. All right, so hold on a second here. Where did I put it? Probably right there. Bam. All right. I'm gonna put some music on here for a second while I look for that, because it's somewhere in all this. Bam. But bink.
Trying to make music that I want to hear. That's always what I'm making. I'm just trying to make music that I want to hear. That's always what I'm making. I'm just trying to make music that I want to hear. That's always what I'm making. I'm just trying to make music that I want to hear. That's always what I'm making. I'm just trying to make music that I want to hear. That's always what I'm making. I'm trying to make music that I want to hear. That's always what I'm making. Trying to make music that I want to hear. That's always what I'm making. Trying to make music that I want to hear. That's always what I'm making. Trying to make music that I want to hear. That's always what I'm making. That's always what I'm making. I'm just trying to make music that I want to hear. That's always what I'm making. I'm just trying to hear.
So I found it, and yeah, this is the greatest quote ever. In order to achieve a totally predictable economy, the low class elements of society must be brought under total control. They must be housebroken, trained, and assigned a yoke and long term social duties from a very early age before they have an opportunity to question the propriety of the matter. In order to achieve such conformity, the lower class family unit must be disintegrated by a process of increasing preoccupation of the parents and the establishment of government operated daycare centers for the occupationally orphaned children. Remember 1954. Between 1954 and 1979, what happened? We went from a one work year economy to both parents having to work economy, correct? For those that were there. The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the mote of ignorance isolating the inferior class from the superior class is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. With such an initial handicap, even bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. This form of slavery is essential to maintain some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. Who, remember, there was that part where I spoke of benevolent genocide, right? Yeah. I mean, let's face it, anybody who's into benevolent genocide has to be on our side, right? Because, I mean, genocide is such a benevolent thing. I mean, so let's play another song for y'all. That's organic. That's organic. All right, so for tonight, that's pretty much about all y'all need to hear for the evening. I mean, that's really a lot to take in. Basically, from this point, I'm gonna start showing you the footprints and where these guys come from and what some of what they've done and some of what their plans, and then I'm gonna cover basically, what I'm trying to do about it for myself, because I mean, the bottom line is that to a certain degree, Mr. Carlin, who, rest in peace, Mr. Carlin was kind of correct. There's really not a lot we can do about this situation as individuals, and until such time as everybody's ready to realize that the only enemies we, the human race, have are those that would say that we are enemies, because it's like we're all in this together, and we have like we got a lot of challenges coming in the future. We have like basically the slipstreams dying within the next few years, and I mean that's basically the pulse of the planet. If you don't think the Mother Earth is a living organism, it's like, think again. It is. It's definitely a living organism, and it needs some care. But it's like the powers that be don't care, because I mean, it's like whatever they got planned, I don't think they plan to be here. I mean, there's a pretty good race on to go to Mars, right? So listen to this part of the opening lines again, and after hearing what I've had to say, and again, I will next episode I'm going to present some actual facts to back up this. But I mean, if you've been listening and paying attention, then I mean, that was 1979 from 1954, basically. I mean, you can see the progression of this plan being enacted now today. I mean, it's still going on. So remember, I mean, by your silence, you are accepting it. So let's listen to this again. Yeah. Let's see. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for right here.
Priding themselves to keep the truth.
All right. Now, listen to this again.
The Intelligence Committee was meeting on a daily basis for top secret briefings about the information we were receiving, and the information we had in the Intelligence Committee was not the same information being given to the American people. I couldn't believe it. Members of this administration were in active, heated debate over whether aluminum tubes really meant that the Iraqis were developing nuclear weapons. Some within the administration saying, of course not, it's not the same kind of aluminum tube. At the same time, that members of the administration were of mushroom-shaped clouds. I was angry about it. The committee was sworn to secrecy. You can't walk outside the door and say, the statement made yesterday by the White House to classified information that's being given to this Congress. We can't do that. We couldn't make those statements. And so in my frustration, I listened to this heated debate about invading Iraq thinking the American people are being misled. They're not being told the truth.
But there's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks. It's the same reason that will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy businesses that control the business, all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. Politicians are put there to give you like you have freedom of choice. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own the control of corporations. The most important part of the Senate, the Congress, the state agencies, and the legislative back pockets. And they own all the big media companies so they control just about all the news and information you get here. They spend billions of dollars every year robbing. Obedient workers, people who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork. They're just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club. And you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long. They tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. Nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue, these people who want solutions, continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. That's what they always care. The fact that Americans will not willfully of the big red, white, and blue tickets being jammed up their asses because the owners of this country know the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
I'm let down, dude. I tell you what. Shit! Fuck! Oh, my ears! We need to get the fuck out of here!
Nope, no weapons over there. Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Nope, no weapons over there. Maybe under here. Oops, this photo wasn't supposed to be in here. This is a Skull and Bone secret signal. This is a Skull and Bone secret signal. This is a Skull and Bone secret signal. This is a Skull and Bone secret signal.
All right, so let's look at that again. What was that? That was our president during a war laughing about the reason we went over there at a convention of basically the world's press associates. All right, so basically that was a large convention of the major media corporations in America, which are all part of it. Which reminds me, I have to show you the list of people that are involved in this particular little scheme. All right, so all you got to do is go Wiki Bilderberg guest list. Bam! Then you go right here. Boop. All right, so let me show you. Let me pull this over here and let me show you what's going on here. Because I mean, this is scary stuff, folks. All right, so let's look at the list, and then I'll give you all the rest of the night off. Because I mean, it's kind of heavy stuff. All right, so let's see. We got kings. Oh, look, King Charles III. All the royalty in the Netherlands, Norway. All the royalty in Spain. We got politics. We got Austria, Belgium, Canada, prime ministers, China, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, European Union, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Japan, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, United Kingdom, prime ministers, United States, senators, governors. Oh, look, Bill Clinton. Let's see, who else we got? Mark Warner. There's Lindsey Graham. There's pretty much anybody who's anybody in large finance, military, Canada, Netherlands, United Kingdom, United States. Financial institutions. We got the Erste Bank. We got the member board of yeah, I can't even read that Austrian language. I'm sorry, but we got the Central Austrian Bank. We got the banks in Belgium. We got the banks in Canada. TD Financial Group. Yeah, this just goes on and on. As you can see, we got pretty much France. We got European Central Bank. We got the German Deutsche Bank, National Bank of Greece. We got Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Spain, Turkey. Governor of the Bank of England, HSBC, Chase Manhattan, Federal Reserve Worldwide, Chairman of the Board of Governors, Chairman of the Federal Reserve, corporations up the wazoo. Let's see, Indigo Books and Music, Cotton, Royal Dutch Shell, Nokia, Artemis, France Telecom, Airbus. Let's see, Deutsche Bank. We got more Airbus. Bundesliga, more and more Siemens, Alcoa, Daimler, Chrysler, Coca-Cola. Um, yeah, the list goes on and on, folks. I mean, you can see Fiat, Telecom Italian, Fiat Chrysler, Royal Dutch Shell, Norco Nordisk. Man, it just goes on. Russian nanotechnology, so Russia's involved in it. Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States, OpenAI, Amazon, Pfizer, which is who came up with the first ones that came up with the cure for COVID. Honeywell, Microsoft, IBM, Facebook, Service Employees National Union, Starbucks, LinkedIn, more Facebook. What else we got? All kinds of stuff. Microsoft, PayPal. Then we got University of Montreal. We got the Peking University. So China's in on it. The list just goes. You can see the list goes on and on and on. Princeton University, Harvard University, Hudson Institute, Museum of Modern Art, American Enterprise Institute, National Security Council. It's like, it's ridiculous. Basically, what you're really looking at here is that basically, as George Carlin said, they control everything as far as your sources of information, your media, the decisions that are made for you, the legal system, the police, everything in upper level government. It's not all of them, and not all of them are necessarily consciously complicit, but they've allowed it to happen. So that's the episode for this evening, and we do have the dance parade coming up, and I would say that we need sponsors, we need advertisers, we need guests. So if you would like to be on the show, if you would like to sponsor us, or if you would like to be involved in the dance party and advertise your business, or a dance parade, pardon me, and advertise your business. All you have to do is call 718-253-7273. Again, that's 718-253-7273. Sorry about walking out of the camera there, and I will call it a day. You all have a nice evening.